What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Modern Warfare 2. And in today's episode, we're finally moving into the marksman rifle category and we'll be covering the EBR-14. And starting it off as always, let's have a look at our damage profile, and this gun is going to be a 2 to 3 shot kill. Although up close in the maximum damage range, it's a guaranteed 2-shot kill anywhere in the body, which is really nice to see. However, beyond that, you have to start making sure you're mixing in torso or upper torso shots to maintain a 2-shot kill potential. As for headshots, this gun is amazing for headshots. Within the first 2 damage ranges, it's a 1-shot kill to the head, and then after that, it will be a 2-shot kill, but that 1-shot headshot potential really makes this gun stand out. As for rate of fire, this is fairly slow for a semi-auto at 286 rounds per minute. And what this means is with a 2-shot kill, we're killing in 210 milliseconds, which is a very competitive time to kill, especially considering the range that can extend out to. However, I just wanted to point out, if you do manage to get a 3-shot kill, it will increase massively up to 420 milliseconds. And that's not a very competitive time to kill at all, so it is sort of a high-risk, high-reward gun. And now let's move on to our bullet velocity, which is fairly standard for marksman rifles and great at 680 meters per second. And what this means is, at least within the 6v6 maps, bullet velocity should generally never be an issue for you whatsoever. And with that, we can now move into our ranges. And normally I'd show you the time to kill, but I think with a gun like this, it's more important to show you the different body multiplier zones and how many shots it takes to kill to those zones, depending on the range. And as you can see, in that maximum damage range, which is amazing at just about 51 meters, it's a 2-shot kill anywhere in the body and a 1-shot kill to the head, so that is excellent, very, very consistent, and that's going to cover the vast majority of gunfights you'll find in 6v6. Beyond that though, you can start to see the 3-shot kill potential creep in, starting off with just the limbs, but then it includes the lower and mid-torso as well. Just know though, as long as you manage to hit upper torso shots, it will always be a 2-shot kill. Next, let's get into our hipfire, and as we can see here, we don't have very good hipfire with the EBR. You generally don't want to be doing this unless you're effectively point-blank range. And then let's get into our idle sway, which as we can see here, by default, the idle sway is terrible with this gun. And it's also really important with this gun, especially if you're trying to hit those 1-shot headshots. It is worth noting though, since it's a marksman rifle, we do have the ability to hold our breath, which will temporarily significantly reduce our idle sway. However, it only lasts for about 3 to 4 seconds, and unless you have a stationary target that can't really see you and you're really trying to line up that perfect headshot, it's generally not going to be worth it to take the time to try to hold your breath. As for our recoil, as we can see here, there is very little recoil with this gun. In fact, most of it just comes down to the idle sway. That's most of what you're seeing when it comes to the recoil. However, it is also worth noting there's a bit of a jump after the first shot fired, and that could throw you off target at really, really long ranges against an enemy on a head glitch, for instance, but most of the time, it's not going to be an issue for you. Then let's move on to our handling stats, and we've actually got pretty good handling on the EBR for a marksman rifle. Our aim down sight time is 280 milliseconds, which is very noticeably above average. However, unfortunately, our sprint to fire time is quite slow at 270 milliseconds. This is definitely going to hold you back from being really aggressive unless you put some attachments on to compensate for this. And then finally, for our handling stats, our reload add time is pretty solid actually at 1.53 seconds. Generally speaking, this shouldn't be much of an issue for you. And then finally, for the base stats of this gun, let's have a look at our mobility stats. And unfortunately, the EBR is below average across the board for your base movement speed, your sprint movement speed, and your aim walking movement speed. So it clearly doesn't excel in the mobility department. And with that, now let's move into some unique attachments with this gun. And the first thing I wanted to cover are the barrel attachments and how they impact our ranges. And as we can see here, the first barrel has no impact on our range values whatsoever. The second and third barrel will both reduce our range values by 7%. And then finally, the fourth barrel will reduce our range values by 14%. Overall, for 6v6 at least, this gun can really afford to lose some range as well. So I wouldn't be too worried about these range reductions. It's still going to be a great gun, even with those in mind. After that though, let's have a look at our recoil, and as we can see here, there's really not much of a difference with these barrels and the recoil. Like I said earlier, most of the recoil that you're seeing is just due to the sway of the gun taking place while you're firing. So honestly, no matter which way you go with the barrels, you're still going to have a very accurate gun on your hands. Then let's get into our aim down sight time with these barrels, and this time we do have hard-coded stats courtesy of sim.gg. I will leave a link to their website down below. And that means there's no more rounding from hand testing here. And as we can see here, with the Boremaster barrel as well as the T300 barrel, both of these harm our aim down sight speed, whereas the Lone Star and the Chrome Line barrels will improve our aim down sight speed a little bit. And then finally, for the attachments that I want to have a look at, let's have a look at our magazines and how they impact our aim down sight speeds. And as we can see here, if you want to put a 15 round mag on there, it's going to bump your aim down sight time to 305 milliseconds. Whereas if you go with a 20 round mag, it's going to bump it all the way up to 330 milliseconds. So while I may consider using a 15 round mag every now and then, I definitely don't think it's worth it to go with a 20 round mag just because that really kills your aim down sight time. So there we go, that's going to wrap it up for all of the important stats I wanted to share. Now let's move into some excellent attachment combinations. And the first one I've got for you guys is my preferred way of running the EBR-14. This is my accuracy build. So with this one, we've got the Tempest GH50 muzzle. This one helps the most with vertical recoil control, and it just really cuts down on that first shot jump, which can throw you off target at longer ranges, so that's really nice to have on there. We've also got the Phase 3 grip, because this doesn't really kill our aim down sight speed too bad, but it gives us a very nice boost to our aiming stability, which is very important with this gun, and that's great, especially combined with the OLEV laser, which also helps in this area, as well as helping with our aim down sight speed. But then on top of that, we have the Cronin EM55 grip. This one helps with flinch resistance. Normally, I don't really worry too much about flinch resistance in this game with most guns, but I do care about it with the EBR-14 because I'm often going to be specifically aiming for the head and trying to get that headshot. And therefore, if the enemy shoots back at me, I don't want to be flinching way over their head. So this rear grip tends to help quite a bit, and it's really nice to have on here. And then finally, we've got the VLK 4x optic, and that's just for that added precision, even across the map, just so you can really easily line up that headshot on enemy players. And with this setup, it is pinpoint accurate. There is very little movement at all when you're spamming at the maximum fire rate, which is really nice to see. And while our aim down sight speed is noticeably slower at 350 milliseconds, this is still very manageable. Obviously, you don't want to be rushing around like a madman with this sort of a setup, but you can still get around the map just fine. And as long as you're picking your battles properly and trying to get pre-aimed for headshots, you should be able to find a lot of success with this build. As for the next one that I've got for you guys, this one's much more geared toward aggression. So this is something you might want to use on smaller maps. Maybe you're trying to grind things out really quickly on Shipment, for instance, or Shoot House, or you just end up on a smaller map and you want to play aggressively with it. This is the build that I'd use. I've got the chrome line barrel on there, mainly to help with their aim down sight speed. I'm not too worried about that damage range reduction, since this is mainly designed for closer ranges anyway. We once again have the FSS OLEV laser. We have the FSS Sharkfin 90 underbarrel, because this doesn't hurt our aim down sight speed, but it helps with aiming stability, which is great for this gun. We're using the R55 adapter stock on this as well to help a bit with our handling. And then finally, we've got the FSS Gen 7 grip, which also helps with our aim down sight as well as our sprint out time. And with all of this combined, we have a very noticeably better aim down sight time at 223 milliseconds, so you can snap on a target very quickly. Our standard sprint out time is also just over 200 milliseconds, which is great and allows you to be fairly aggressive with this. And with this, while we did nothing to help with our recoil with attachments on this gun, we've still got a very accurate gun because we helped with our aiming stability with this. And that's what you need more than anything to be accurate. And overall, this leaves us with a pretty solid build if you are looking to be more aggressive. Like I said, I do prefer more of the accuracy build so I can get those really precise headshots at longer ranges. But when I am looking to be more aggressive, this is the one I'd go with. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the EBR-14. As for my thoughts on this gun, I like it. I like it for what it is. I wouldn't say this is the most versatile gun out there. It's definitely something that's going to challenge you in a different way compared to something like a regular assault rifle or SMG, for instance. But if you can line up those headshots, you're definitely going to be rewarded very heavily for that. And honestly, even with just 2-tapping people to the body, you still get a great time to kill potential at 210 milliseconds. So it's very viable. Even if you have no intention of hitting headshots, you can still be running around the map and taking people out with those body shots quite effectively. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts on the EBR-14, and I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section below. What do you guys think about this gun so far? Do you really like it? Do you hate it? Somewhere in the middle? Just let me know down below. Also, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.